Thank you, folks. As the credits roll, I'm going to tell you two things before we invite our guests up. First of all, this film is screening Sunday at 7 p.m., so tell all your friends to be there. Dov Khenin will also be part of a conversation tomorrow with about the left wing in Israel. That's at Saturday at 6 p.m. Thank you. Don't miss that, and many other wonderful films coming up. I think we can all agree that we want to see more Dov Khenins in the American politics. The cynical political situation can be improved, and there are good people out there. First, I'll introduce the director of the film, Barak Hyman. Barak, thank you for being here. And please welcome Dov Khenin. Dov, it's an honor to have you both here to moderate this conversation. Please welcome one of the most important supporters of film in Israel, who is really bringing many of the films that we show here and doing so much more to raise important questions in films that often get pushed to the side, like today's film. Please welcome Dorit Inbar from the New Foundation for Cinema and Television.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Dorit Inbar. I had one of the oldest film funds in Israel, called, funnily enough, the New Fund for Cinema and Television in Israel. We supported the production of this film, Comrade Dov. And I will start first with you, Barak, and ask you, why making a film, such a boring film, about such a perfect person? Everything is good with him. Everybody loves him. He only does good things. He always has good spirit. It's not, you don't do such films.
So why did you support it? Why to make such a film? It's a very simple answer. I met him in 2003. I was falling in love. And when you fall in love, you usually make a film about the person you fall in love with, because this is your way to be close to him. And I find it so crazy and so tragic that this beautiful man who is doing all those beautiful things is being not understood by so many people. Like you could see at the beginning of the film when he is riding his bicycle in the streets of Tel Aviv, and you hear what people have to say about him. And it was very easy to record it. I just took my recorder and I went to the street and I asked people, what do you think about Dov Khenin? In a second, I found those terrible things being said about this gentleman. And it's unbelievable for me. So one of the reasons for me to make this film was to shrink this gap between what people think about him and his values and his way and his agenda, and between who really is Dov Khenin. And I hope I managed to do it.
Did he? You liked it? Yeah. I think it's a great film. Actually, for us, it was like, it's a film about a unicorn. There are no such people, really, apart from Dov Khenin. And Dov, I want to ask you, I don't want to talk about the past. I want to ask about the future. Currently we are in a paralyzed political situation in Israel, by the way, as you in the United States, where there are two groups. Each one holds approximately half of the votes, and it leads to nowhere. It looks like a deadlock. And my question to you is there a chance to get out of this deadlock and hopefully to the right
or to the left,
which is the left place, right? The right is the left. And what are you doing? Because you're a doer. What do you think that should be made, and what do you do in order to get out of this deadlock?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. Thank you, Dorit, for the support for the film. Thank you, Barak, for all these years. And thank you all for coming here Friday morning. And I would like to thank the Other Israel Festival for this amazing endeavor you are having. Yesterday we had the moving experience of seeing here this amazing film about advocate Leah Tzemel, advocate. I think that all of you who haven't seen this film should see it. And in a way, this is the start of my answer to your question, because our situation in Israel is even more problematic than only this issue of a deadlock between the center or center left and between right-wing, extreme right-wing politics in Israel. We are a society and a country in a very, very deep trouble. We have an ongoing occupation of more than 50 years. We have a dangerous phenomena of racism, spreading in our society. We have attacks on Israelis' rather limited democratic space. We have a limited democratic space, but even this space is under heavy attack by the government and its supporters. So we are really in deep problem. And this is, in a way, the key to my decision to leave the Knesset. I left the Knesset not because I got tired of being a Knesset member, not because I think that the Knesset is not important. I think that some of you know the story about Woodrow Wilson, who used to be a law professor at Princeton, but back in 1912, I believe, he decided to quit university and ran for office and became the President of the United States. A journalist came to Woodrow Wilson and asked him, Professor Wilson, why did you decide to leave university? And Wilson answered, well, I just got tired of politics. So, in a way, I'm in the opposite situation. I decided to leave the Knesset in order to do more politics. That may sound strange for you, but I believe that although the Knesset is an important arena, you can do things there, and it's very important, I do not underestimate it. In order to really change in Israeli society, you have to do something else. I've been a Knesset member for more than 12 years. After finishing these 12 years, I asked myself and tried to give myself an honest answer. During these 12 years, did Israeli society become a more just place? Unfortunately, no. Did we become perhaps less corrupt? Unfortunately, no. Or perhaps we just, became less racist, and the relationship between the Jewish majority inside the state of Israel and the national minority of Arab Palestinians inside Israel, perhaps this relationship got better somehow? No, it only got worse. Perhaps we came closer to peace, to a just peace with our Palestinian and Arab neighbors. Unfortunately, we only got further away from it. So if I have to give myself, a sum up of my, term in the Knesset, this sum up is not positive. Now I have to ask myself also, frankly, where is the problem? If all these very bad things happened during my term as a Knesset member, perhaps it is connected to the fact that I was not really, doing enough work. Perhaps I was a bit lazy. Perhaps I, went out of the Knesset instead of 12 o'clock at night, at 11 o'clock at night. No, I stayed there till the last minute. I didn't miss votes. I prepared myself to every discussion. I put all my effort, all my possible effort, 7 days a week in this endeavor. And yet, Israel became even more dangerous, yet Israel became somehow worse than when I got into it, the Knesset. Therefore, I have to think very clearly about what can we do about it. Now, if I believed that there is no chance for a change in Israel, then, well, there is nothing to do about it. But that is not my belief. I think that everywhere in the world we have problems, we have difficulties, we have, very, difficult things we meet. But everywhere there are people, and everywhere we should strive to make a change. And when I look on my society, I see not only the dangers, not only the threats, not only the horrible things, but I can see also positive things. I can see people that are striving, that are fighting. I can see people like my friend here, Mohammed Bakri, who is fighting for approximately 20 years. He's an artist, but he's fighting, endless legal battles, unimaginable, because he expressed his views in a film. That was the issue. And I can see my colleague, legal colleague, because I'm a lawyer, Leah Tzemel, who is striving to do the impossible and to fight in Israeli courts against, a system that actually lost touch with its legal basis. And I see many people like this, and I understand fully that we are living in a society where there are not only dangerous threats and problems, there are possibilities. And if we perhaps think deeper into our problematics, into our inability to connect with different strata of Israeli society, I think that we may have a chance to change things in Israel as elsewhere in the world. Well, I'm not totally sure that we will be able to overcome all the problems. I'm not sure about it, but I think it's really worthwhile to have this fight.
Yeah. I think it can be summarized that maybe we will die, but we will not die gracefully. Yeah? Okay.
No, let's think about living better.
I'm sorry, I'm a Polish girl. Okay. Woman. I think it's time to let you ask your questions. So if somebody, please.
Yes. Man, I'll wait for the mic. I'm coming to you. It's okay.
So I thought there were so many moving scenes, but one of the most moving scenes was where you were meeting with a group of young people and discussing the two-state solution. So I just wonder whether you still believe in that as a possibility.
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. I think that in a way, one of the most important successes of the right-wing forces in Israel is by making the alternative seems as impossible for so many people. The late Antonio Gramsci wrote that, political and public structures are actually being based on the success of this hegemonic project that causes some world vision to be seen as common sense and all alternatives to be seen as totally nonsense. And if we want to change things, the most important things to undermine is this common sense. When people say, well, you should give up the idea of two-state solution, what do they mean? They mean that we should give up the idea of, fighting the settlement projects, or perhaps they mean that the Palestinians should give up the idea of a nation state for their own people. I think that is, unacceptable. I think that the two-state solution is very, very complicated. It's very complicated. There are many, many problems. There are the problems of the settlements. There is the problem of Jerusalem. There is the problem of the Palestinian refugees. Very, very big problems indeed. And we cannot overlook them, we cannot ignore them. All these problems really need serious and real solutions. But what is the alternative? If we want rich solution, and the solution should involve all these very difficult issues. If we want rich solution, what is the alternative? The only alternative that is on the table is that Israel and the Palestinians and the Arab countries and the Middle East at large will continue its endless war circle. This is a horrible vision. I will say it very frankly. I think that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict will end. I'm sure about it. The only question is, what will be this end? If this horrible circle of war will continue, then probably this, will end in a nightmare of the whole Middle East being exploded. There are nuclear weapons in this region. There are horrible possibilities. And this is a nightmare. So the only option for the Palestinians and Israelis alike is to reach a just solution for the conflict, for Israelis to accept the fact that there is a Palestinian nation, there is an injustice being done to the Palestinians, and that we should meet this injustice, not in order to create injustice for the Israelis, but to create a place where all of us can live, not in a total justice, but in a relative justice, that people will live and will create better future and continue to solve the remaining problems we will have.
First of all, the movie is fantastic, and I appreciate very much the years that you have been working for hopefully peace and justice in Israel. I think that one of the reasons why we can't achieve peace or at least understanding in Israel between Arabs and Israelis is because the Israelis don't know enough about the Arab people, and you can see that in part of the movie. I was always surprised that in Israel, children, or not children, people don't speak Arab, I believe including yourself, and you see that most of the Arabs, if not all of them, do speak the language. I think that if you do not speak the language, it's very difficult to get to them and understand their way of living, their aspirations, and so on.
Thank you for the question. And I agree with you that many Israelis do not know Palestinians, do not know the Arab world and the Arab culture and the Arab tradition, and view, unfortunately, the Arabs through the lens of a rifle. And unfortunately, as you said, in Israel, people do not learn Arabic. From Jewish pupils, that is to say, do not learn Arabic, which is most unfortunate. In order to understand the other, you should know his language. I understand Arabic, but unfortunately, I do not speak very well, so I prefer to speak in Hebrew. But as you said, in Israel itself, the Arab-Palestinian minority inside Israel, they learn Hebrew, and so everyone understands when I speak in Hebrew. But you're very right to say that it's very much needed, the knowledge of Arabic language.
Just before we continue, I just wanted to tell you that at the end of this Q&A, there is a surprise. Surprise?
No spoiler.
No spoilers. Okay, it's a 3-minute surprise that you should expect.
Thank you all for the wonderful work all of you do. One of the things that's very frustrating in the United States is that a large number of American Jews who share your goals and your beliefs are just fed up and they check out and they say, crazy place, balagan, I'm not having anything to do with Israel. What do you think progressive American Jews can do that would be the most helpful to the causes that you believe in?
Well, thank you for your comment, and I think that you are very correct to say that many people are fed up, and I can totally understand them. But what I have to tell them is that, if you live in the United States, you should realize that the United States is an extremely important factor in what is going on in Israel. So you cannot really give up because this country, the United States of America, is the basis, in a way, for the ability of Israeli government to do whatever it wants in the Middle East and to cause, many damages, both to the Palestinians and to the future of the Israelis themselves. And I think that it is very, very important for progressive people here in America, Jews and others, to understand your responsibilities. You are part of the issue. You are part of the issue, and you should take a stand. And taking a stand is through understanding the fact that we are fighting. We are fighting back in our country, in Israel and in Palestine, to change the situation. Our fight is extremely difficult, and we want you to fight alongside with us. This is a shared fight. I will tell you very openly, if the Middle East will explode, and there is a danger of such an explosion, I'm not so sure you understand how this danger is clear and imminent, but if the Middle East will explode, I think that everyone here in America will feel it in his direct daily life. So it's not only a matter of solidarity with us, Palestinians and progressive Israelis, it is also a matter of self-interest. If you want to continue to live in this world, well, you should take care that the Middle East will not explode.
And if I may add, from my point of view as a film fund, and also as an Israeli, and I hope I'm not too biased, I think that it's the best interest of every Jewish person around the world, doesn't matter if they visit Israel, if they want to live in Israel, is that Israel will exist as a sane place, with the best civil society, with the strongest democracy, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and you can help in that, and you can support in that, and this is something that should be made in order, again, to secure the Jewish people around the world. So I think it's for the best of everybody that Israel will become a saner place which treats its minorities not only its minorities, immigrants, illegal immigrants, everybody, and this should be a stable place from many points of view, but especially from this aspect of being a sane democracy. And this is something that you can do and should do.
I think we have to finish, right? So, what?
I was going to hand things over with one last question to you as you introduce the clip. Can I ask you just one question?
Sure.
You've been traveling with this film around Israel, and I know that you guys are going, both of you are going to so many screenings of this film, and the film's being embraced all over the country from north to south. What have you learned from this process of showing the films to the audience?
Wow. I think what I learned is that maybe the best way to approach people, trying to move them a little bit, is through the emotional aspect and not through a very intellectual or didactic way. this is what happens to people. You know, we are screening this film to many different kind of people in Israel. Not all of them are left-wing at all. In one of the very first public screenings we had in Lev Cinema, there was a 75-year-old religious guy with yarmulke sitting there, and you could see in his body language that he was not feeling comfortable with the content of the film. But still, he stayed all the way to the end, and even for the end of the Q&A. And then I asked him, hey, mister, what's going on? You need a glass of water? Are you okay? It seems like you're going through something. And he said, Barak, I have to be honest with you. I'm here completely, not by mistake, by accident. I didn't plan to be here. I would never come to see such a film. I went with my wife to see a film. The tickets were sold out. And then the girl in the cashier in the box office told me there is a film about Chaver, a friend, Comrade. She didn't mention the name Dov. And I love Friends. Everybody loves Friends. So I went inside the cinema. And what can I tell you? I'm such a person who when there is a lefty or Arab person on TV, I turn off the TV because I don't like those people. And then you show me this friend of yours, Dov, and I'm in love with him. So I'm confused. I don't like what he's saying, but I love him. So how can it be? What to do? Can you tell me what to do? So I don't think now this guy tomorrow is going to vote for the Arab United List, and it's not even the issue. But this guy he went through something, and I think his heart and his mind is a little bit more open to new ideas. And this is for me the main thing about this film and in general about cinema.
And this is exactly what film does.
Yes. And I want, before we end, first of all, to tell you that we didn't know how to call the film. You know, it's the most complicated, sensitive issue, how to give a name for a film. So I thought to name it Atikim Shel Dov. Atikim Shel Dov, because not only Bibi Netanyahu can have tikim, you know, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. But Dov have nothing. What he have, he always carried those funny tikei bad, you know, cotton bags. So I made one of Comrade Dov, and I brought with me two, one for Itzi and one for Carol Zaber. And this is for me a good opportunity to tell you, Carol, thank you very much for making this festival so many years. And for doing so many good things. And for the end, I just wanted to share with you 3 minutes that is very important for me to share with you. When I finished editing the film, I sent the film to a very good friend of mine who is a master of editing promos for films. And he can even create amazing promo for a very lousy film. And so I thought my film is not lousy, so for sure he can make amazing promo. So he saw the film, he called me, he told me, I laughed, I cried, it moved me, it's a beautiful film, important film, but terrible film for promos. You cannot edit a promo out of it. I told him what to do. He said, look, I'm sending you now to a very special mission. If you succeed, you're going to make the best promo ever in the history of documentary film in Israel. I said, okay, I like challenges. He told me, go and interview high-rank politicians, like ministers and parliament members, but mainly from the right side, and tell them to talk about Dov, good things, bad things, without mentioning the word Dov. This is the most important. Don't allow them to mention the word Dov. So people, when they see the promo, they see that many people that are very famous in Israel, politicians, are talking very enthusiastically about someone. They don't know who they talk about. And then only at the end, we show Dov Khenin, and all of Israel will go to see the cinema to watch the film. I said, okay. So I went to interview them. And one of the people I interviewed was the president of Israel, Mr. Rivlin. And from this interview, I cut 3 minutes to share with you. It was not in the promo, but it's here for other Israel Film Festival. So I want to thank you, Dorit, Inbar, Dov Khenin, Itzi, Carol, and all of you. Thank you very much.